LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccerrules.
There's something we're all afraid of.
Something that's all around us, but we avoid at all costs.
But when we start to understand it, we learn some fundamental things about being human.
What we fear, but also what we love, and what we're capable of when we work together.
We're talking about cancer.
Interested in science, medicine, wellness, or just what it means to be a person? Listen to Smarter Than Cancer, brought to you by Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center.
New episodes every other Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
It's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Texas. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of empathetic leadership in the modern world of work. And I think it's just a perfect connection to this topic that, we were both running a little bit late this morning. And, I reached out and said, hey, I'm going to hop on a little bit late. And you're like, hey, that's great because I need to like support my team a little bit more and I'll be a little bit late. And I'm like, okay, that's exactly what this is all about. Like we try to have schedules. We try to be prompt. We try to be, value other people's time and show up when we say we're going to show up and all that. But also life happens, right? And like real world stuff happens. And sometimes we get delayed. Sometimes we have to reprioritize our team a little bit for a few minutes as they're dealing with something, right? And anyways, I thought that was like a perfect kind of like introduction and setup to our conversation today. As we get started, I wanted to share Ashley's bio with everybody. Ashley Marshall is a results-driven chief strategy officer at Tier Level who transforms digital marketing challenges into growth opportunities. Since joining the company in 2018, she rapidly advanced from account manager to CSO through her exceptional ability to build client relationships and deliver measurable business outcomes. In her current role, Ashley collaborates with business owners to develop customized digital marketing strategies that align with her organizational culture while driving revenue growth. She simultaneously leads Tier Level's strategy initiatives, establishing infrastructure that positions the company as an industry leader. Ashley's professional journey reflects her determination to overcome obstacles and help others succeed. Her balanced perspective as a strategist, marketing professional, team leader, wife, and mother informs her holistic approach to business challenges. I could say more, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background before we dive on in?
Oh gosh, that was a lot. No, I definitely that kind of fits it. I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of different things for the company. And some days I'm in the financial role, some days I'm in the leadership role, some days I'm in the client facing role. It takes all pieces of the puzzle to make the ship keep moving. It's kind of like if you're a parent, you one day your kid is doing great and one day your kid's losing it, and you're just trying to figure out why they're losing it so that you get to help them work through it the best way they can. And the same approach comes with business. When you're leading a team, you try to figure out what exactly is causing that team or team member to struggle, and then you coach them through it, right? You don't solve their problems. You don't do it for them. You coach them on how to be able to do it for themselves. So it's different hats, different times, and you just kind of work through it.
Yeah, yeah. And that coaching piece is so important in a really complex, hyper like vacillating kind of environment that we're in right now. And so we're trying to deal with all sorts of complexity within our organizations, within the broader market. And then of course we recognize that like people in their personal lives and their families are also dealing with those similar types of things. And so we want to be able to coach, we want to be able to build, we want to be able to develop our bench strength and members of our team. And I'm not sure it's possible to do that effectively without empathy. The companies will have formal coaching or mentoring programs. They'll have, opportunities for people to sit down with others and learn from them in formal ways. But so much of what needs to happen is just the day-to-day pivoting and the day-to-day adjustments. And that really happens via that coaching, that, good managers will spend their time committed and devoted to helping their people. But again, that empathy piece, without it, I'm not sure how effective you could possibly be. Like if you're coaching without empathy, it seems like you're just kind of talking down to people often. Someone does something wrong and you make them wrong and you point it out and then you tell them to do better. And that's not uplifting. That's not powerful or, empowering in any way. So how do you view the role of empathy, within your broader coaching? You wear all these different hats, you're doing lots of different things. Like, what does it mean to have empathy for yourself, for your team, and for the organization as you're trying to move things forward in a positive way, knowing that it's messy?
Okay, so that question has a couple of different questions involved in it. But in terms of, I'll touch on the first part that stood out to me the most, empathy for yourself. I think that all of us are the worst at having empathy for ourselves, right? You usually are your own worst critic. And so almost everybody is battling that negative self-talk, right? Or the self-talk that is not necessarily helping you achieve anything. Definitely not having empathy for yourself and whatever you're going through. But in order to be effective at having empathy for others, you have to start with having empathy for yourself. So that's one place that it is very wise to make sure you have a center. For me, I have a strong foundation in my faith that helps me to maintain my center and helps me to maintain my empathetic self voice when referring to myself, right? So that's step one. And that is not something that once you get it, you have it. Like, it is a constant everyday practice that you have to have in place with discipline in order for you to continue to be showing up for others.
Can I just double click on that for a second? So
yeah,
you're right. Like, and everyone's heard all the stuff. Like, it's not necessarily new. It's not rocket science. It's not like conceptually difficult to understand. Like, we need to do those things, to center ourselves and to make sure that we're in a place where we can be good for others. It's literally like on flights, every single flight we go on, they're like, put on your mask first, right? So we hear that over and over and over again, yet it is hard to do. It's really hard to do because it requires consistency. It requires, that commitment, to ourselves. And I don't know about you, but for me, I tend to overburden myself sometimes because I see the needs of other people and I'm like, I want to be helpful to other people. And then I don't invest enough into maintaining myself. and then that depletes myself, and then I'm not able to support other people as much. So it's not even, it comes from a place of wanting to help. It comes from a place of wanting to be supportive, but then I burn out, and so ultimately that's not helpful to anybody if I'm burning out. So like how do you approach that in terms of trying to have that discipline, that consistency? Because again, it's not like we know lots of things, like get enough sleep, eat a good healthy diet, get some exercise, uh mindfulness practices. Like we know what we need to do, yet we all have ongoing struggles and battles with all of those things. A lot of us do. And yeah, how do you approach it?
I don't always win at it. To be honest, I'm human just like everybody else. But for me, making sure that certain things that are important to me, I do every day. One thing is, I spend time in scripture, reading the Bible, right? That's one thing that I do. Another thing that I do is I try to have some form of physical activity that day, right? For me, years past, I would wake up at 5:30, get my workout in, and then go about my day with my kids. I'm in a season of life where that's not possible. I'm getting home really late. My kids have after school activities. I can't get up. Like the 5 a.m. is just really difficult. So I work out while they're in practice, right? So I changed my schedule so that I can maintain the discipline, but it's not overwhelming me, right? So my son's outside doing soccer practice. I'm walking at the park that he's practicing at, right? And that might not be the workout that I really want to get in, but I'm being physically active, right? I would love to spend an hour every morning sitting in my Bible. That's not always realistic, right? So if I get in a good 15 to 30 minutes where I feel immersed and I feel recharged and I feel like I have achieved something, the time frame doesn't matter, right? The workout, whether I'm doing my heavy lifting or I'm going for a walk, I'm still being active. So there's a combination there of there's 2 or 3 things that I want to make sure I do and achieve every day, even if it doesn't look exactly the way I want it to look, right? The walk might not be that great hit workout, but it was something. And that there's that piece of empathetic thought, right? Combined with discipline. It might not look exactly like I want it to look, but I did it and I'm going to keep moving and the discipline is still there. So that is the thought process that I keep in my head. Oh, I got to go do a run today. That's way better than a walk for me, but that's okay. Great, excellent. So
Yeah.
having that empathetic voice is always helpful.
I really like that perspective, and it's giving yourself some grace to just recognize that, yeah, everyone has good days, bad days, crazy busy days. I have children as well. Like it's just unpredictable. Like you just don't know like what's gonna happen. Like you can have your best laid plans in front of you, and then it can all get thrown, out the door like first thing in the morning. Like you just don't know. And same thing with, when you're leading a team, like just stuff happens, like, and then you have to be able to respond to it, and you have to be able to provide support. And so having patience and grace for yourself is just as important as having it for your team. When you're trying to coach them, mentor them, and support them, and you can't do that for them if you can't do it for yourself first. So I really like how you've been able to like pivot. You kind of have your core values of things that you want to be able to do, but then you're flexible about how you do them. So that you don't feel overwhelmed, so that you don't get down on yourself and then start to just like, oh, I suck. Why can't I just, script, like reading scripture, like the an hour a day, that's amazing. I would say most people don't do anywhere close to that, but most people are like, oh man, if I can get 10 to 15 minutes a day, then I'm killing it, and so just like reframing for yourself, like that walk around the park while your kid is playing, or in practice, or brief, even if brief, but meditative or reflective, self-centering practices, like scripture, prayer. For me, often it is like being outdoors, going on walks with my dogs. Like there's lots of different things that people can do that can center them. And sometimes you can do it as much as you want, exactly the way you want, and more often than not, you can't because that's just life. And so rather than like throwing the whole, baby out with the bathwater, oh, I can't go to the gym for an hour, so I guess I'm not doing anything today. Instead of doing that, like do what you can. Do what you can.
Yeah.
And
Do 15 minutes of stretching. Everybody's got 5 to 10, 15 minutes, right? Like, and it might not feel like you're doing anything, but you're accomplishing something, right? And as long as you're doing that something every day, whatever that activity or thing is, you will notice a difference. 1% better, right? 1% better every day. So it'll get there. But then turning that into, how you provide to kind of answer the last part of that other question that you asked, how do you provide that in terms of empathetic leadership for other people? I think one of the biggest parts of being an empathetic leader is listening.
Mhm.
This morning, I was in a meeting and I said, hey, these few things have happened. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what you have to say. And that usually turns into how they're feeling about something that happened and listening to that. And my brain immediately, as a mom and as the way that my brain operates, it's always trying to solve a problem. My kid doesn't like his pants. Okay, well, solving the problem is what? So fighting the urge to interject with my perspective or interject with how I see the situation and just listening to them and understanding what they're saying, that way it helps me to learn them better. So I know how to lead them better to help them to be more effective at what they're doing. And it allows me to say, okay, I'm hearing this similar concern from 8 different people. It's just packaged differently. How can we take that feedback and is it meaningful? Like, is it prompting something that we need to change? Or is it really just like, I just feel this way today and tomorrow I won't feel that way? And learning how to juggle that while you're also still making big decisions on the backside of that conversation and making other implementable changes along the way. It can be challenging, but listening is the best part or the hardest part about empathetic leadership, but it makes the biggest impact.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely essential to be able, to understand your people. Like long ago, I was sitting in a class, at university, and we were talking about leadership, motivation, like team stuff. And, we're talking about different theories and whatever, and they're all useful. They all have their different, pros and cons. But, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, how can I integrate this and make sense of it? And there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But one of the first things I did is I started just kind of jot down my own conceptual model of like impactful leadership is really what we're talking about. It's very simple. It starts with self-understanding, which requires self-reflection on an ongoing basis. It's not a one-time thing. And it requires understanding others around you. And there's a variety of ways to do that. Like you can do it through observation, you can do it through data, you can do it through like a lot of different things. But the most powerful thing is to just be with and listen to others and to really understand them. And you can't fully understand other people until you have a good understanding of yourself. And the more you understand others and how you interact with them, the more you can understand yourself. So it becomes this reciprocal process if we have intentionality around it. And it does require us to just be with and to listen to those who we're with. And I'm the same way. Like I tend to go into like problem solving mode. Which is the death knell of like really listening sometimes because someone says something, I'm like, oh, I have, it comes from a place of wanting to help, right? And,
yes.
It's not like I'm trying to like smother them or something. They say something, I'm like, oh, I try this or whatever, but I'm like, no, I gotta like remind myself, just pause, take a step back, and to just listen. And, as the old thing goes, like most people, when they share, things that are frustrating to them or when they're complaining or venting or just sharing, something that's hard, usually they just want to be heard. They don't need you to fix it for them. Usually they actually know like some of the things they need to do, but they just want to be able to let it out. And so you just need to have the discipline to be able to stop, listen when something comes in your mind that you think you want to say, like filter it a little bit and just like pause and then give them a chance to share. And the more that you understand where they're coming from, if it gets to the point where you can share like how to help or like give them advice or whatever, or give them those coaching moments, then you're in a way better position to do that in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. Because the reality is we're all different. We're all unique. We may have similar personalities. We may be in a similar life stage, career stage. There might be a lot of things that line up that are similar between me and another person on my team. Often not, though. A lot of times, all those things are different too. But even if all those things are the same, we all just come to things from a different perspective. We have different baggage. We have different life experiences. We have different outlooks on the future. And so, so as much as I might think I understand that person sitting across from me, chances are I don't. I just have to have that like humility to recognize, that as intuitive of a person as I might be, as much as I try to have empathy and to understand, as much as I value those things, the reality is I'm still going to be sitting across from somebody that I don't fully understand, despite my best intentions. And so just leaning into that and having the humility to continue to listen is very, very powerful. And people can tell the difference when you're listening to understand versus when you're listening to fix or you're listening to manipulate in some way.
Yeah. And there's power in the silence too. You have to think, okay, they just express all their concerns and you need to give yourself 10, 20, 30 seconds to really think through the things they just said and then respond. Because it allows you to actually formulate a response that's not fixing the problem. I think a leader I had early on used to make me so mad. But then when I understood what he was doing, it all made sense. And I think that a lot of the ways that I lead are similar to this. But, he would ask me to achieve something, a goal or finish a report or something. And I would run into a problem and he would check in with me and I would say, well, I'm struggling with this piece. And then he was like, okay. And then what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm telling him that I'm struggling with it because I don't know what to do. And he's like, where can you find the answer? Who do you think you could ask for help? Like he would ask me question after question after question.
Yeah.
And I was very young. I mean, just out of college, nobody had really talked through things like that with me. College is different now, but back when I was in college, it was here's your homework, do the grade, do the project, move on. It wasn't really, this intuitive learning space where they're teaching you to find the resources. I don't feel like I gained that in college, right? Exhausting your resources. I learned in real life. I learned after graduation, and he was a big part of that. And so, a lot of the way that I approach it is, okay, if they come to me because they messed something up, I say, okay, this is a learning moment. How would you have done it differently? And then they'll say, well, I think I would have done this differently. And if they ask me, what would you have done? I'll say, well, this is how I would have handled that. But I'm not going to give them that information unless they ask for it. And unless they are like at the point where they're throwing their hands up, getting ready to go crying out of the room, I typically don't give them a solution or an answer. I walk them through how to find it for themselves or how to rethink the situation from a different perspective. And I do this with friends, with family, with lots of people. I always play devil's advocate. If somebody is really upset about somebody's treated them this way or somebody said something, and I try to reframe that perspective with, well, but if this happened and this happened and this happened and you were sitting in this role, what would you think? Or how would you respond to that? And a lot of times you get confronted with well, I wouldn't do this. And I'm like, really? Are you sure you wouldn't do that? Kind of putting yourself in the other person's shoes and really trying to have a conversation from the other perspective. It tends to land them in a spot where they're handling it in a good way. So those are some of the tactics that I have used. Okay, this is a teachable moment. Take a breath. We're going to work through this together and then embark in the conversation to get them to think through solutions on their own, and then giving other perspectives, right? Like turning it around and giving it a perspective somewhere else, which is kind of like the conversation we were having right before I jumped into this conversation. Is like, well, if you were in this role, if you were in this position, how would you respond to this? And it kind of got them thinking and got them working through it. And then they landed on a great solution. And if the solution works and everybody's happy with it, fantastic. And if they're not, we're going to walk through it all over again.
Yeah. Well, this has just been a really great conversation. I know we've only scratched the surface. There's a whole lot more we can say, but I do know at the time I need to let you go here in a minute. As we wrap up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Yeah. I am on LinkedIn. I answer almost all of the messages that come to me on LinkedIn. Ashley Marshall. And the company that I run currently, it's a digital marketing agency. If you're interested in that company, you can go to tierlevel.com, TIERLEVEL.com. And send us a note. You can always email me at ashley@tierlevel.com. Those are all the ways you can reach me. LinkedIn, email, and company website, always available. And final thought would be give yourself grace and then extend the same grace to others. And if you're better at giving grace to others, then remember to give yourself the same amount of grace. You deserve it just as much as they do. And keep going. It's okay. It's going to be all right. Everything is a learning moment. You can learn from every situation you're involved in. And if you keep a perspective of constant learner, you will get very far in life. You'll be very successful.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I love it. Thank you so much, Ashley. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Ashley can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.